Hey, everybody, welcome to the Struggling Hunters, where we're working hard every day to try to figure out how to be more successful, sharing our struggles and our successes with you. I'm Eric, and
Yo,
we are
struggling hunters.
we're still working on that intro too.
We struggle.
We struggle a little bit. Um, nah, with that said though, Joe, Thanksgiving was this last weekend. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was simple.
Yeah, you had a pretty simple one.
Yeah, it was easy. It was nice. Didn't cook that big of a dinner. You know, little sister was the only one that she came over. She had to work Thanksgiving evening, so she came over Wednesday night and kind of helped. Thursday kind of baked a pie and helped a little bit with other food preps. But it was just me and the wife. That was it for Thanksgiving dinner. Um,
It's pretty.
but
It's
food was good. We didn't do a traditional turkey. We did it. It's called a sweetheart turkey breast,
huh.
and it's just pretty much it was just 10 pounds of turkey, and it was nice because it was simple. Like it was thought out, and it comes in this package. Of course, it comes in a package, but the package um, can be put in the oven, so you don't have to take it out, putting it in its own pan, and like mess with it or clean it up or anything. You just it gives you a duration of time to leave it in for, and you just set it in there and cook it for that, and that's what we had. That was our turkey, but it was delicious.
That's awesome.
It was
That's
juicy
awesome.
and tender, so it
Yeah.
was it was worth it.
That sounds like a pretty simplified turkey day.
Yeah, it was definitely one to remember, but it was good.
Yeah.
How about you guys? You guys do much for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we went over to the great grandparents' house, and uh the wife's grandpa cooked or him and his wife cooked all the food, and I just showed up and pretty much and ate too much, and yeah, I felt like I was turkey drunk for about 2 days afterwards, man. I just felt so lazy, man. I was didn't want to do anything for. I was like, man, I definitely ate too much food, but it was good. It was really good. We had a lot of fun. Um, yeah, pretty big event for the most part. A lot of family members showed up, and yeah, it was good. Just kind of hung out and relaxed, and it was really nice having a 4 day weekend.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, I really I think that was part of it too. Is I just wanted to enjoy the weekend, so I was like, I'm just gonna relax and set back for
Yeah,
the weekend.
I definitely didn't want to go back to work on Monday.
Yeah, I know that's my problem too. This time of year, it's hard. It's hard to be all invested in the work week.
True, true. I didn't really. I'll just transfer right over. I don't know if you have anything else, but I'll
No, no,
talking
just
about the 4 day weekend. I was able to take advantage of hunting. 2 of those days. I took all of Thanksgiving off, but it was also my wife's birthday, so um, spent time with her, and then Friday and Saturday I took off, went hunting, uh, just hunting up above Bountiful here. I guess no, not it won't be too much of a secret. A bunch of other hunters. No, I shouldn't say a bunch, but there's other hunters up there too. Bumped into one dude. He actually saw some elk up where I was hunting, a couple cows. Um, but he that scrub oak is kind of interesting stuff. Um, it can hide stuff easily,
yeah.
even though there's no leaves on it. Like it still hides everything really well. Um, so he's like, that's what he was after, was elk. And I saw him, but I could never get on him. And so I took off, went down this one ravine. And as I was going run ridge, not a ravine, but the ridge, I was like, well, I want to kind of get down where I can kind of look back up and see everything, like this whole ridge line, see everything, east and west. And went down a little ways. And I was like, I'm just gonna sit here till dark. I know nothing's moving. Figured nothing's gonna move till just about before dark, anyways. So went down, sat there. I sat there for a little bit, and as I was going down, I kept coming across. I shouldn't say kept, but I came across quite a few cow droppings. Or elk, I guess I should say, not cow elk. I shouldn't even say. I don't know if there could have been bull or cow. I just said cow because that's what the dude saw, but nothing too fresh. Fresh as in the last couple months. I'm sure there was some back in August or so. I'd say this year, but there was actually quite a bit more than I thought there would be, and actually found a cow elk skull. So someone got an elk. I would assume someone got an elk in there at some point, because it wasn't with a whole skeleton of bones. It was its jawbone and a couple other bones. So I figured it was kind of scattered because of being packed out. Anyways, and so just before dark, when I'm meaning just before dark, I was probably about 45 minutes, an hour, hours pushing it. No, I take that. Anyways, I looked down. Sorry, I back up. So 4:00 hit, and a ridge to one side of me. I think it was like 2 does and 2 fawns or 3 fawns. It was like 4 or 5 deer, but they were all does popped out, and they were a ways and moving down the ridge, and I couldn't put a play on them. But I feel bad hunting a doe with not that it was it didn't have any spots on it or anything, but I just feel bad killing mama.
Yeah, for sure.
And anyway, so then so that was at 4, and it doesn't get dark till about 5:30. And then about 4:45, I think is when it was. I looked down further beneath me, and on this little plateau, I guess almost the bottom, I saw it looked like a 2-point in this clearing. And I was so close to putting a stalk on it. And I probably should have, but I had a couple things that were playing on my mind. Oh, you don't want to do that. One was, it was at the base of this hill, pretty much at the bottom of this canyon. And to go home, I had to hike clear up that and then down the other side. So it was it was a good hike out of there at night. And I really didn't want to do that. But I couldn't see a clear way to get into it either, because it was in this clearing. It was a good sized clearing, but it was surrounded by scrub oak. And it wasn't there was just a straight shot into it. I had to have picked my way through it, breaking brush. And I was with 45 minutes, or not even 45 minutes, 20 minutes to try to get there or whatnot, and get a shot on it. Just wasn't going to cut it. And then I almost went out because this next little clearing that was even bigger, there was a decent buck chasing a doe. And I was like, oh man, I can do this. I was like, man, I just don't see it. Had I saw probably a clear way to get out there without making much noise, I probably would have took off. But I was like, I just got to bust through all that scrub oak, and it's just not gonna work. I'm gonna put in all that effort to get there, and then I'm gonna scare it off because I have to go through the scrub oak, and then I gotta hike clear. I gotta hike up this side and then cross the ridge a little bit and then down the other side to get back to my truck. So I just kind of lost motivation. I was like, it's just not worth it.
That's tough.
Yeah. So I went back home. All right, I decided I just watched it, and the one little buck he fed off into the scrub oak, and I don't know what happened to the other one. Like I said, he was the bigger buck was chasing a doe and was chasing her pretty hard because he was you could see him like chasing her around the field, and she kind of wasn't wanting him, but he was wanting her.
Yeah.
But so, anyways, that was Friday. Saturday, I went back out, and then I was gonna actually go into where I was gonna go. I was like, I'm going down there to the bottom. So I'm gonna go. So I went, but I was like, I'm gonna go this other way. That's a little more direct. I went to that ridge line, and it had a little placard there saying, like vegetation reconstruction. No, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna just go look a little further. Then behind that, it was a no hunting area, and then I was like, I'll go down this other ridge. Maybe it won't be posted. And jump down this other ridge, and it had another sign on it. It was, like BLM or whatever it was. No hunting this area. I was like, oh man. Had I
Wow.
gone down the ridge that I originally was on, I probably, I could have played the, well, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
But so then I just more or less just pushed grub oak for a little bit and found this ridge line that had there's a little bit of snow. Found a ridge line that had some tracks in it, and it was opened a little bit. So I just set off the ridge a little bit and was just hoping something would walk down the ridge just before dark. But I didn't try it quite dress warm enough to be setting as long as I did in that area because the sun wasn't right on me. I got to shivering, and it was about 5 o'clock, and I was like, man, I just can't sit here any longer. Had I sat there longer, I don't know. I can't say I would have been successful, but you just never know. So I turned around, and I didn't want to hike out in the dark anyways at this newer area. So I was like, well, I'm cold. I'll just start hitting back out. So that way I'm not stumbling around in the scrub oak in the dark and not being able to quite orient myself to get out. Went back out, caught the ridge line, started walking out, and then I looked across this other ridge, and there was like 4 does popped out, and like, man, just right at dark, and they were far. They weren't even close enough to, they were close. If I had a rifle, I would have filled my tag, close as in 300 yards, maybe a little bit further, but yeah. So that was my Saturday and last day of hunting for me. But
so now you're pretty much up. Your hunting's all done with for the year.
Yeah, for deer it's done. I could pursue elk if I wanted, but I just kind of done, I guess. I don't want to admit it, but yeah, I think till the 15th, 18th of December to hunt elk. But I just out here where I have been hunting, I've only seen 1 elk, and the other guy, I got bumped into a guy that saw elk, but I just where I'm not seeing them, I don't know that it's really worth my time to be like, oh yeah, I'm going after elk because I just ain't. So I call it done.
Well, it's been a tough year for both of us. Hopefully next year is a little different story.
True. I think it will be. Just trying to recap, going over in my head what I did. The thing is, too, is I've had a couple opportunities where I gotten onto deer. Elk, I haven't gotten on to an elk yet, but deer, I've gotten onto them. Have I not made a couple mistakes? I probably would have filled a tag. I hope I can remember the mistakes I made and can stop myself before I make them again. I think that's going to be the real trick is, we talk about breaking those walls and forming new habits. I just, just I'm trying to, I don't know how you really form those habits without being out in the woods and practicing, but at least mentally, you know, watch for those trigger points, that I go down when I'm going out. Like for example, um, one of the bucks this year that I put a stock on, I got to where I should be able to see him. I didn't see him. And instead of putting up my binoculars and looking through the brush with my binoculars, I tried to use my old eyeballs and didn't see him. And instead of, like really, and then the other thing is I got in there and started pushing myself, like I got to get in there. I got to work my way getting closer. And, doing that alerted other deer that caused that buck to scamper off. So, hopefully I can, before I get into those positions that, I can be like, okay, wait a second, Joe, find where the deer is, let them make the move, instead of me making the move and playing my hand out. I think that might be the secret too, is letting the deer play their hand when you get in that position.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to be the one that, I got to make it happen. No, let the deer mess up again. Deer messed up, you find it. It's still in there. Let it mess up again to find it again.
So with that said, to kind of clarify is, do you think you kind of rushed your hand a little bit, or, rushed what you're trying to accomplish a little bit?
I did. And I did it without that much cover. The only thing I had going in my favor was the wind was blowing in my face. And I was just like, I got to get in there. I was at 75 yards. And I knew I had to get under 50 or under. And so I was trying to push for that extra yardage to get closer when there wasn't any need. Like, I think it was midday even, so this is back in August. So if it was 2:00 at the latest, I had till 8:00 at night or 9:00 at night till it got dark.
So you could have had that thing come to you, basically.
Right.
Well, I think, it's kind of tough I feel like it can get a little confusing. It can get a little frustrating because, like, whenever you're hunting elk, you kind of want to break the brush and pursue them. You don't have to worry so much about being quiet. And then switch over to deer hunting, and you gotta be super quiet. But sometimes, I don't know. I feel, it's kind of just kind of messes you up, or kind of, confuses you. I don't know. Cause I feel like I've done that a little bit over the years, is, be in deer mode and trying to be too quiet. Then I switch over to elk or vice versa, whatever. And, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not hunting elk. I'm hunting deer. So I need to slow it down, be more patient. But the biggest thing with you though, is you were hunting with a bow, and, it sounds like you would have probably got about you would have got a handful of bucks this year if you would have had a rifle, but
yeah, I would have.
Well, because you had your bow, you just never could quite cut the distance there. So
No.
It happens. So how many, I know you've shot bow quite a bit, or you've had a bows pretty much all your life, but how serious have you taken bow hunting over? Like, how long has it been since you've been hunting with a bow? Seriously, I should say.
So I dabbled in it 4 years ago. And then I just went back to rifle. Then really these last 2 years, I've really tried to call myself a bow hunter.
Yeah. Well,
but it is fun. I just wish that I could, like, like tell them my success, or, like, I wish I would, like the audience, how do I want to put it? Like, yeah, I wasn't successful in like the whole grab and grin of, antlers and whatnot and taking the grab and grin pictures, but yet, like I got on $3 this year with my bow, which is pretty good, you know. But I two of them I kind of blew myself, I was within 50 to 70 yards on all three of them. So, like to me, in a way, for a year into it and trying to comprehend what that situation is pretty good. And I just wish that I could like, somehow convey that as like a success.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because I went through the same thing this year, like with having a podcast and everything. I'm like, well, I mean, I wasn't successful, but then like I want to what's the word I'm looking for, or the phrase, like I want to classify my success in other ways because I wasn't successful in the way I wanted to be.
Oh, true. Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah. So I definitely did that. I'm like, well, what was the success is I got to hunt with my friends and family, and
Exactly. Exactly.
which is very important, but at the end of the day, it's hard to
Well,
swallow.
right. And it's hard to really like, I mean, evidently people do like us because they're, listening to our podcast, but like at the same time, it's kind of hard to convey that over through a podcast and whatnot of how much time that is, other than if you've been out there, what it's like to be with your friends and families and out in the woods and sharing that, that time out there with them. Cause yeah, like being out there with you and seeing, like for me, like, we've talked about it, was that bear, and that was, not, of course we didn't get it on camera, but that's an awesome memory for me. And I wish that, like putting that success, that type of stuff, over to people to find the value in it, like that's, I guess you got to become a better storyteller. But yeah, I know that's, it isn't, people want to see you, with the animal on the ground, and that part of it, that the bigger, that seems to be where the reward is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is, man. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what, obviously, us starting this podcast, we didn't go into the podcast and this hunting season thinking that we weren't going to get nothing. Um,
True. Well, I started back before the bow, like like I thought we even said it, we have it in the bag, but because of the private property, I had access to hunt, but want to show that didn't pan out.
yeah, it just kind of feels like everything was kind of working against us this year. It's been a
Right.
crazy year, and I don't know, man. I mean, we'll get there. It's tough, but we'll get there, and the truth is, for full transparency, is like right now, we're just trying to find our legs in this podcast, and um and
Well, no,
I think things would have been different if we would have been more successful, but at the same time, like, we're gonna keep plugging away, and that's what it's really about, is our introduction. I mean, I'm saying, hey, we're sharing our struggles and successes, which successes are kind of on the low side right now, but you could kind of probably learn from our podcast on just everything that we've done wrong.
right.
So we're spitting knowledge either way. It's just not the knowledge that we wanted to share.
Right. Well, that's like the thing too, the whole, I think almost our platform of our, struggling hunters is giving us an opportunity to talk about what we've done and maybe tweak it for the next time. And yeah, it feels like in a way this whole year has been a learning curve in a way, because like we talk about stuff, but have we done everything per se that we've talked about? Like, oh, you got to do this to be a successful hunter. We read this article and this is what they say to do, and we try, but at the same time, we're trying to break down those barriers or walls or whatever mental blocks that we put up in front of ourselves because we're used to hunting a certain way, and trying to reroute that thinking is new. And that's why we're doing this, is being able to get on, give us a place to talk to each other, and hopefully realize where those weaknesses, or I don't even know if you want to call them, some of them weaknesses, just where those points are that we need to tweak a little bit to find, I guess, successes in seeing animals and finding the animals.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in the works for both of us. You've alluded to it in the past about trying to do more research of areas with better population instead of kind of going. I think me and you both have done this. Now, I mean, I've kind of went off a hearsay, but like up where you hunt behind your place, um, you've said it yourself that like the population's not the best over there, but it is close to home and in the mountains for you. And and where I hunt, I mean, I've heard that there's a lot of elk in there, but and we've seen a lot of cows, but we haven't really stumbled across any big bulls or anything. So I mean, I know they're in there, but what I'm saying is like making plans of maybe kind of abandoning where we've been going, and maybe kind of opening our minds to better and bigger places that could bring more success. And some of that, I know over in Colorado, some of that is like through the draw. If I could draw a better unit, um, that would be helpful. But yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating either way. I mean, just you have so much hope, and I mean, I was pretty confident this year going into it that I was going to get something, and it just didn't work out. And I was kind of thinking this when you were talking earlier. Mike Tyson, he's famously quoted for saying, everybody has a plan until they get punched. And then the plan goes out the window.
Right.
And I kind of feel that way. Like the amount of research that we've done in the last, however long we've started when did we start this podcast? In April or
April.
So since this last April, we've done research and tried to study, or learn more about vegetation ourselves, and try to really like dial in all that stuff. And to kind of relate it to what I just said about the Mike Tyson quote, I feel like when you get out there and you have all these hopes and you're like, okay, I really feel like this is a good place, like kind of goes off all these checklists, and you don't see an animal, your plans just go right out the window. It's really really tough, like, I mean, you question everything. I know for me, like I questioned everything I did, and I'm like, man, I got to go back to the drawing board, because I'm doing everything that we talked about, and we we're like, yeah, this is a good way to get some success under your belt, and this, you got to try to be over here, and you got to try to do this, and look out for the vegetation, find a good glassing spot, whatever. And I'm trying to check those off, but then I'm not seeing anything, and I'm just like, what am I missing here? Like the confidence really goes away, and I feel like this year was definitely humbling. I'm excited for the future, because I know that we're not going to give up. We're not, we're going to keep plugging away and trying and busting the brush. But it's it's just been a heck of a year. And it all kind of started out, if you think about it, it all started out with turkey season.
True.
So
True.
maybe this next year, if we have a little turkey success, maybe it'll turn everything around.
Which we might. I ran into turkeys quite a bit this year, this fall.
I'm
Winter.
still I'm still kind of looking for a good place to go. It's a little different for my area, but uh I know of where some turkeys are, but it's on private land, and so I don't know if I can do anything with that, but um that's about like the best I have for turkeys is yeah, it's on private land. So I've seen a few, or yeah, I've seen a few in a few other places, but I'm not 100% sure if it's private or public, and I don't know the access. There's this one spot in particular that's kind of right off the highway, but man, I probably saw 20 turkeys running around over in the field. But it's kind of a field, but it's maybe cattle are in there. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure if it's private or not. I just got to get on Onyx and try to figure it out. But if it is public though, I might try to go over to that area and see if I can come up with any success. But other than that, yeah, I don't really know where to go for turkey yet. But I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning game, and I feel like some people, it's a learning game in a couple ways because you kind of figure out who you are. You hit your low points, and then you find out how you act during those low points, or act, or how you react, I guess. And then try not to let that get to you. And then, yeah, it's trying to prepare for next year. Like I'm thinking of my mistakes that we talked about. One of them, that I feel like I could change. And another thing too is, the scouting I did down there on the public property. Like I only turned up a couple deer, and I never turned up that many bucks in my preseason scouting, unless it was on that private property, and those just disappeared. And I guess trying to too is comprehend is how much more time should I spend hopping ridges, trying to find where the bucks are, or was there just none in that area, and I should have just totally reevaluated where I was looking and gone lower elevation. I'm not sure, but definitely trying to interpret how I'm going to hunt for next year. But all that too depends on where I draw my tag. It's almost, I feel like in a way, it almost where you're hunting. Well, it does dictate how you're going to hunt, or like where you're going to look to hunt. But
That's kind of a good point, or something that I just thought about is whenever you do a draw. I mean, as soon as you hear about your results, or even where you put in, just start kind of going out and scouting right away. And if you draw it, great. If you don't, then I guess you just kind of scouted for no reason. But like kind of give you a leg up, kind of try to figure out the area a little better.
right.
I don't know. I feel like I feel like that's one mistake that I made this year is I probably should have scouted. Well, let me back up a little bit, because for most of this last year, I kind of knew where I was going to hunt, and I've been there before, and I actually did scout the area one time, which isn't, I mean, I should have done it more, but I scouted the area one time and kind of, we didn't really come across much, but uh, I had my plan. I've hunted there the last few years, so I kind of knew the area and knew what I was wanting to do, or kind of making plans for what I wanted to do. And then kind of right before hunt season, I got the drop on, it was the same unit, but a different area. And so I just kind of, threw my whole plan out the window. And I did go up there once, but I didn't really scout around as much as I probably should have. I really wish that now looking back, I wish that I would have went up there and hiked around a little bit more and really seen what I was getting myself into before I started getting into it. And so I feel like for next year, whenever it comes to elk, especially, I'm gonna probably spend a little more time doing that, is scouting where I want to go. See what happens.
Right. Yeah. That's what thing too. Like I said, I just want to, my main thing is I just want to put my lessons that I've learned this year in the head, in my brain, and put those check marks in there. So that way, like I don't get myself into situations that I got into this year that didn't allow me to get a deer.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a lot of that to do too. I got a lot of soul searching to do till next October.
Yeah. One of the things too that kind of like, for my elk, where I was hunting for, it was, like just like it was only a spike or cow only. I was going to bed listening to elk bugle all night. And I was coming out from the ridges with elk bugling, but I could never get on them. And so, I was like, what? I don't know. That's the other thing that I'm trying to search on, what I'm trying to, I guess, take in what other people say and trying to do better for my elk hunt next year.
Were you hearing much in the morning times?
Yeah. I'd actually, there was a couple of times where I had 2 or 3, I think they were bugling to me or my cow call. But I forgot. Hopefully I can interject this, but then when I was hunting Saturday, like I said, I was going down. Was it Saturday? Friday. It was Friday when I was going down. I came across going across all that elk droppings. I sat down and I heard this bird that would chirp, and then it would kind of sound like a cow chirp, like like it had a bird, but then I hear this like it's like meow, but it was, I knew it was a bird, but I was like, oh well, could be an elk. So I reached in my backpack, pulled out my cow elk call, and gave that a blow a couple times, just like why not?
Yeah.
And then so then I looked up behind me, and there's a hunter coming down the ridge.
Oh, really? So you think he came
Yeah.
to your cow call?
I think he was coming to my cow call. So I stood up. I didn't wave my hands or really get his attention, but I was like, well, if I stand up, he'll know I'm here. So I stood up, and he kind of kept coming a little further. Then I saw him glass one side. Then he just dove off the ridge on the other side and hiked up this other side and just went back up. So I don't know. I can't say I was going to let him, if he's coming down, sure, I would have talked to him and, glassed with them for a little bit, or maybe did a plan to push a draw or something. I don't know. But he decided to get out of there. But like I said, I blew on my cow call a handful of times, and down the hill comes this hunter.
Wow. Huh. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, at least you called in a hunter.
True. I thought that was, like I said, I don't know for sure if it was me, but coming down the same ridge as I'm on, who knows?
He might have heard you.
I mean, I felt like I was kind of loud because I was right on the edge of a ravine, you know, so I was blown into it and it carried the whole ravine, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
That's funny.
yeah,
It kind of makes me wonder what he was thinking in his head, or even if he heard it.
right. But yeah, he didn't even, like I said, he didn't finish out. He dove down one side, went up the other, and went right back up. So I'm sure he's like, I don't want to, and probably like, I don't want to admit to that dude that he called me down here.
Yeah. That's funny. Huh. Yeah, well, I guess are you thankful for anything this year as far as what you experienced?
Yeah, you know, thankful that I was able to go out, you know, the opportunity, you know, to go out and that, you know, healthy enough to have a good time, you know, to not be limited on what I could do. Um, yeah, thankful that the wife would allow me to go out. You know, that's the big part of it too. She can. I told her a handful, or I tell her every time I go that you have full control. You could, you know, like you can say no and I won't go. No
Yeah.
questions asked. It's as easy as that. But um, you know, she's thankful that she's willing or you know allows me to go out and thankful I was able to go out and you're able to come out with me, you know, hunting together for you know a handful of days this year.
Yeah.
That was that was nice.
Yeah. Hopefully one of these days we can do more of it.
True, true. How about you? Are you thankful for stuff this season?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say I'm pretty thankful for my wife for letting me do as much hunting as I did. I didn't have as long of a season, but she got injured right before her hunting season, and so I didn't know if I was gonna be able to make it out, but I still was able to make it out, and you know a lot of it was thanks to her because I did tell her I was like, you know, I mean if I have to make that call, like I don't want to, but I'll stay home and help out with everything, you know, and she let me go out, so I'm pretty thankful for that, and like kind of really mimic everything you said. I mean, I'm thankful that we got to hunt together again, make it a tradition, and yeah, I'm thankful for that. Thankful for my family being able to come out and hunt with me for a few days, and I'll tell you, I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to be negative, but the only thing I'm thankful for is is that my hunting season wasn't longer. But some of that was my own mistake. I could have made it a little bit longer if I would have just not focused on pursuing elk only this year. Um, that was my main focus, and I didn't do nothing with the deer. And so I could have got a little bit of a deer season if I would have went for that, but yeah, I do wish that Colorado hunt season was a little bit longer than they are for the seasons. But I guess it's kind of a good excuse to get a get a bow and start hunting bow season so I can have closer to a month.
Yeah, he'll be maybe yeah focus. Yeah, be instead of doing both, you know, cat or elk and deer, it might be fun to do rifle elk and bow deer, so that way you're not having to focus on two on the archery.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. It's still kind of in the future because I just want to I don't know. I mean, maybe if I got a bow, I'd probably have better luck with the bow during rut season. But I don't know. I'm like, man, I've been struggling getting an elk with a rifle, so I'm like, I don't know what I'd get into with a bow. So
No,
that's
I'm the same way.
why I
Like
hesitate.
I got, a couple years hunting one area for elk that like I feel like I need to go back and like with my rifle and try to fill a tag with my rifle, with elk, because it's like I've tried for so many years and been unsuccessful that I need to like redeem myself, or like kind of as that like tick mark as to
Yeah,
like I'm successful now.
yeah. How were you this year? Were you within a couple hundred yards of an elk at all?
I visually no, but everyone's like, well, if you're hearing it and it sounds fairly close, it's closer than you think it is. Like I said, I had a couple when I was cow calling, vocalizing that like I feel like they were close to me. I never saw them, but I could hear one get further away, then the same sound would come closer to me, and I had another, a couple other ones that were sounding off. So like visually, I can't say, but what sound or I don't know what the proper word is for I guess vocalizing. Like yeah, I was probably within 100 yards or so of elk, but I did see elk, but there was 5, 6, 700 yards away and down a ravine and up the other sides. And again, I keep coming across things when it's like an hour before dark and there's no way I can get there before the sun goes away.
Uh, yeah, that's tough. I guess one thing though to play that is this next year I probably need to take this advice too. Is if I do see something at like one night, if I see something, right at dark and I'm too far away to get there, the next day just try to get to that area and hopefully they kind of come back to that same area and can make a play on them.
True.
Because I guess I mean I don't know how long we've been going, but to kind of further that point, uh, do you feel? Because well, let me put it this way: I feel this way about my hunt. So, do you feel like at times you might have cut out of areas a little too quick? Like,
I don't know. Yes and no. Like you mean like totally like, well, when I was elk hunting, I stayed in the one area for like I hunted two a ridge and a bull for the whole time I was in that area. Kind of went back and forth between the two. That's because I was hearing elk down in there, but I could never get them to come to me. And then deer, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know
yeah.
how to really give you an honest answer in that.
Well, I'll kind of go in a little bit of detail for me. Um, that area where we went into the dark timber,
Uh huh.
I went there the very next day, and I didn't come across anything the next day. But kind of looking back, that was the most activity that we saw all week, right?
Right.
And even though I didn't see nothing the next day, it kind of makes me wonder. There's a couple things is the next day, especially that time that I was in that area, I didn't see anybody go in there. I don't even know if anybody went down because there was a road about a mile or so away, and I don't know. I never heard anybody go down that road, anyways. And
Right.
so it was kind of that little mountain was all kind of to myself. The only thing that made me stay away from it or not go back there was the fact that we were camped about 10 miles away. And I was like, well, I camped over here for a reason. So I need to stick close to camp and just hunt from camp. And so I made that choice, but I look back and I go, man, we did see some animals in that dark timber. I mean, there's only one elk and a bear, but it was more than what we saw on the other side where we were camping. So I'm just like, man, maybe I should have spent more time in that area, in that darker timber area, and not abandon it so fast.
Right.
So that's one of my regrets is I should have probably stayed in there because and then it comes down to I don't know if there was that much. I don't think there was that much pressure in there because I think that day that me and you went there was a few vehicles that drove down there because we could see it in the snow or see their tracks in the snow. But the next day, I don't even know if I so much heard a vehicle. And as far as tracks, it was a little harder to tell because there was some tracks in there, but I don't think I ever heard a vehicle go down that road at all. And then whenever I drove up out of there, I never met with anybody or anything. So it kind of seemed like I almost had that area to myself. So the pressure was a little lower. And my whole decision, like I said, as I said a little bit ago, my whole decision was just the fact that we were camped 10 miles away. And I was just like, well, I camped over there for a reason. So I need to hunt that area.
Right. So I guess in closing, because we're, like 10 minutes to an hour. I kind of want to, I guess, a couple of thoughts on that. Next, so like you're right, like we didn't see in that snow, we didn't see any tracks till we went to the timber. So I don't know how much of that we can really use for next year. Okay, let's hit that timber. Let's get on Onyx and like look for places that we can set in glass. Look for some wallow areas for some watering areas, and maybe let's purchase a camera and take it back into there and set it up someplace and just see what we can get. Because, evidently we can't deny what we saw because we did see quite a bit of tracks that morning in the snow. And we know it was that morning because it snowed that night. So everything we saw was that night and that morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, again, okay, let's not be too stupid about it. And let's maybe invest some more time in that area. And I can say the same thing for my deer hunt. We, we didn't see that much activity or that much proof of deer until we found what we're calling the honey hole, because we found deer and elk sign in that honey hole. And, I hunted that and what I should have done too is I should have probably duplicated that and said, okay, where else in this area that I'm hunting? Well, I guess, what looks like this area, like where is there another canyon, another draw that has the same setup, water going down it, big clear openings, and so that I probably could have maybe found some success that way too. But again, being that I hunted deer and elk at the same time, I didn't spend every weekend hunting deer, but I went to a different unit to hunt elk.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I guess what I'm getting at, our takeaways that we can maybe apply for next year. So that's just some thoughts as we're buttoning up here.
Yeah. No, I understand completely. I think,
So I think you are onto something. We can't deny the amount of tracks that we saw in that area. And we know, I mean, there was some highways going on in there, and then there were a couple spots, there was a lot of elk tracks running through. So
Yeah, I just think that if we would have been kind of paying a little more attention, or if I don't know. I mean, it's all kind of hindsight 2020, but like you said, the amount of tracks, the amount of activity, or we did see a couple animals, and I mean, it was just more than what we've seen at the original place. And I mean, rain or snow or no snow, I feel like next year, if we hunt that area, um, probably just need to maybe figure out a way to be closer to that spot, and just try to go in there and hunt that little area every day.
right.
And I mean, it's hard to say if they'll be there next year, but I don't know. I play back and I go, I feel like I made the wrong decision, but I just it was hard for me to justify.
And the
I
other
mean, I
thing
should have
too
justified it, but go ahead.
is how can it be a wrong decision when you've learned? I mean, I get how it's a wrong decision, but you learn something from it.
Yeah.
Like there was we were able to get loaded up with information, and what, and then it'd be stupid if we went back next year and said, hey, we're going to hunt the same spot over on that one side, and even though we saw all the tracks on the other side, like, okay, let's use that information, let's see what we can learn, see what we can add on to that information. I mean, if we do go back to that area, like, let's do some more homework in that area.
Yeah. Well, I like what you say about the camera, getting a camera in there and seeing if we can see some activity. And I really like that idea. I would like to explore it a little bit more myself, just walk through there and in the summertime,
Yeah.
or leading up to hunt season, and just see what we can come up with and see how much activity is in there. Because it's not very big, but I mean, this is all kind of stuff that we could talk about outside of the podcast. But that dark timber, I mean, it's big, but it's not huge. But I think you could make it out onto, I mean, we probably wouldn't go as far as is where we were camped, but that hillside, that hillside that we were glassing at, basically, but we had a hard time getting to. Um, I think you could end up on that ridge, kind of, I mean, where it's kind of open and stuff. You could hike down that far if a guy really wanted to, and kind of end up on that side of the ridge from that area.
Oh,
Might be a
gotcha.
little bit of a stretch, but it's kind of like the same mountain
Right.
that we were glassing on the other area. So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of country there, and I mean, there's probably more dark timber there than I'm giving it credit for, but I don't know. I kind of feel like it wouldn't be a bad spot to go check out.
True.
But with that said, Joe, you want to get us out of here?
Sure. Thanks again, guys, for listening to us. Hopefully we didn't bore you too much to death, and hopefully you picked out some little nugget, some little good piece of steak that wasn't too gristly or too too much to gnaw on, that you didn't enjoy. But again, thanks again for listening. I'm Joe.
And I'm Eric.
Catch you guys later.
Later, guys.